When a place is abandoned, time continues everywhere except there. The world outside moves through days and months and years. Inside the abandoned place, the calendar on the wall stays on the last date someone was present to turn it. Japan has a specific relationship with abandonment. The country's post-war economic trajectory, the rapid industrial expansion, the bubble economy, the collapse produced entire categories of abandoned places at specific historical moments. And in many of them, the physical evidence of the last date is still present. Not metaphorically, literally. The calendar on the wall, the newspaper on the counter, the schedule on the blackboard, the reservation book open to the week, everything stopped. In this video, we count down 13 abandoned Japanese locations where the calendar never changed. Stay with me to the end. Because number 1 is a place where the calendar stopped on a specific morning that everyone who lived through it remembers, and where the calendar has remained on that morning ever since. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us begin. Hashima. Island Gunkanjima, the battleship island, was evacuated on April 20th, 1974, when Mitsubishi Corporation closed the undersea coal mine that had sustained the island's population of over 5,000 people. The evacuation was rapid and complete. Residents left with what they could carry. What they left behind included calendars on walls, schedules in offices, and in several documented cases, personal belongings arranged as if the occupant intended to return. Urban explorers who documented the island in the decades before it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site found calendars still showing April 1974. Nichitsu, silver mine town in Saitama Prefecture, was abandoned more gradually across the 1980s. But the administrative office of the mining company contains a payroll document dated to the final operating month, 1987, still visible on the desk where it was last processed. The figures are still legible. The last month's wages were calculated. Nobody came to collect. Matsuo Mine Town in Iwate Prefecture was built entirely to support the sulfur extraction operations of the Matsuo Mining Company, which operated the largest sulfur mine in Asia from the early 20th century through its closure in 1972. At its peak, the town housed over 14,000 people across company-owned apartment blocks that clung to the mountainside in a configuration that local residents called the Cloud City for its elevation above the surrounding terrain. In the abandoned school building that still stands on the mountainside, the blackboard in one classroom has never been erased. The last lesson, the content and date of the final morning of classes in 1972 is still partially visible in the chalk that has survived 5 decades of mountain weather in a building that has been open to the elements since the windows failed. The lesson was not finished. The bell rang. The teacher and students left. The chalk stayed. On Hachijojima Island, south of Tokyo, the Hachijo Royal Hotel was built during Japan's bubble economy as a resort destination for the domestic tourism market. The hotel opened in 1963 and operated through the peak of Japanese resort tourism. When the bubble economy collapsed in the early 1990s and domestic tourism patterns shifted, the hotel became financially unviable and closed in 2006. In the reception area of the hotel, the reservation desk contains a booking ledger that was last updated in the final weeks of operation. The ledger is open. The last bookings, the guests who were confirmed, the dates they were confirmed for, the room numbers assigned are visible. Some of the names in the final weeks of bookings are guests who arrived and stayed. Some are guests who had bookings beyond the closure date that nobody called to cancel. The ledger is open to the final entries. The guests whose names appear in the uncancelled bookings have presumably never known their reservation still exists. Nara Dreamland opened in 1961 as Japan's answer to Disneyland, a theme park modeled directly on the California original that had opened 6 years earlier. For 3 decades, it was one of Japan's most visited family attractions. As the larger theme parks expanded and Disneyland itself opened in Tokyo in 1983, Nara Dreamland's attendance declined progressively. The park closed in 2006. In the administrative offices of the closed park, an events calendar from 1993. One of the final years of strong attendance was still posted on the office wall when urban explorers documented the space in the years after closure. The calendar shows the seasonal events scheduled for that year: summer festivals, autumn attractions, winter illuminations. Events that occurred and were attended and are over, still listed as upcoming in an office where the year has not changed. Outside, the roller coaster that was the park's signature attraction still stands, rusting, intact, going nowhere. Ikeshima Island off the coast of Nagasaki Prefecture was a coal mining island whose peak population exceeded 8,000 people in facilities designed for underwater coal extraction from the seabed. The mine closed in 2002 and the island's population relocated to the mainland. The departure was managed over months, unlike the rapid evacuations of earlier mining closures. In the island's mine administration building, a shift schedule board from November 1968, the year of the mine's highest production, was still attached to the wall when the building was documented in the years after closure. The schedule shows the underground shift assignments for a week in November 1968. Which crew goes down at which time, which shaft, which level. The names of the miners assigned to each shift are listed. The names are still there. The men are not. Some of them are buried on the island. Hotel Tannowa on the Osaka Bay coastline was a resort hotel that operated during the peak years of Japanese domestic tourism, before the bubble economy's collapse restructured the leisure industry. The hotel was abandoned in the late 1990s, with its restaurant still set for service. Urban explorers who documented the property found the restaurant in a state of advanced decay, but with its table settings partially intact, place settings arranged, menus distributed, the staging of a meal that was never served to guests who never arrived. In the kitchen, the weekly menu board that the chef would update with specials was still showing the week's menu from the final operational period. The menu describes dishes that have not been prepared in over 20 years. The price list is in a currency scale that predates the deflation of the post-bubble period. The restaurant is set for a dinner that Japan in the 1990s was setting tables for and then stopped coming to. Yubari in Hokkaido was once the coal capital of Japan, a city of over 100,000 people, sustained by the underground coal seams that powered post-war industrial reconstruction. The mines closed progressively from the 1970s through the 1990s. The city declared bankruptcy in 2007, the largest municipal bankruptcy in Japanese history. The population has declined to under 8,000. In what remains of Yubari's commercial district, a newsstand that operated through the final years of the city's economic activity still contains newspapers. Not the physical papers, those have long deteriorated, but the newspaper display rack with the vendor's final arrangement of titles. And on the wall behind the rack, a 1990 newspaper page that was taped to the wall as a display or reference and has remained there. The date is visible. The headlines from 1990 are still legible. The news from that year has not moved. Akabira in Hokkaido was a coal mining city whose peak population exceeded 60,000 during the height of post-war coal production. The mines closed progressively through the 1970s and 1980s as domestic coal became uncompetitive with imported alternatives. The population has fallen below 10,000. In the former Miners' Welfare Hall, a social facility that served the mining community during the working years, a film program poster from 1976 is still attached to the exterior wall. The poster advertises screenings for that month, the titles and dates visible despite decades of Hokkaido weather. The films it advertises were screening nationally in 1976. They have since been on television, on home video, on streaming platforms. The poster outside the abandoned welfare hall is still advertising them as coming attractions. The welfare hall is empty. The films it was advertising came and went. The poster is still inviting people to come and see them. On March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck off the Pacific coast of Tohoku, triggering a tsunami that disabled the cooling systems of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station. The evacuation order for surrounding areas was issued on March 12th. People left with what they could carry. Many left with nothing. In the abandoned homes and businesses of the evacuation zone, the calendars stopped on March 2011. Not metaphorically, physically. The wall calendars in homes that were evacuated in March 2011 are still showing March 2011. In some of the homes that have been documented by researchers and photographers with access to the restricted zones, the specific week is still showing. The week the earthquake happened, the week the tsunami came, the week the nuclear accident began, the week the residents left, and, in many cases, have not been permitted to return to. The rest of the world has moved through 14 years. The calendars inside have not moved through 1 month. Aso Farmland in Kumamoto Prefecture was a resort complex built around a series of igloo-shaped dome accommodations on the slopes of the Aso caldera, one of the largest active volcanic calderas in the world. The resort operated as an unusual destination tourism experience. In April 2016, the Kumamoto earthquakes struck the region, causing significant damage to the resort's infrastructure and triggering a closure from which the complex has not fully recovered. In the resort's main building, an events board showing the summer 2016 program. The seasonal activities scheduled for the months after the April earthquake was still posted in the reception area when the building was documented in subsequent years. The summer program had been prepared before the earthquake. The activities it listed were never conducted. The board lists a summer that the resort had planned for and did not have. The Miharashi Hotel on Japan's Pacific coast was a seaside resort that operated through the post-war tourism boom and into the 1990s. Its ocean views Miharashi means panoramic view were its central attraction. When the hotel closed in 1994, it was abandoned with its seasonal promotional materials in place. In the hotel lobby, a summer 1994 promotional display was still standing when urban explorers documented the building. In subsequent years, a display showing summer package rates, the activities available, the scenic attractions accessible from the hotel. The display was designed for guests choosing a summer holiday. The summer it was advertising was the last summer the hotel had. From the lobby where the 1994 summer display still stands, the Pacific Ocean is still visible through the windows. The view has not changed. The hotel's ability to charge for it ended 30 years ago. The display advertising the view is still there. On July 12, 1993, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck near Hokkaido's Okushiri Island, triggering a tsunami that hit the island within minutes. The death toll was 202 people in a community of 4,500. The damage was catastrophic. In the interior of the island away from the coastal areas that were most severely affected, a small farming settlement was abandoned not because of the tsunami, but because of what followed it. The community, shaken by the loss and the subsequent economic and psychological damage to the island, gradually left over the months after the disaster. In the abandoned farmhouse that was the last to be vacated, a 1993 desk calendar was left open to the week of July 12th, the earthquake date, the tsunami date, the week in which 202 people died, and an island community began a process of departure from which it has never fully recovered. The calendar is open to that week. It has remained open to that week.